So what I'm going to do today is just share with you a little bit about the 7-week program, what it entails, what it's about, and essentially where it comes from. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time and ask any questions. And I would just like you to relax and enjoy the afternoon. And you'll know, I want to just reassure you that you'll know while I'm talking, and by the end of it, whether this next 7-week program that I'm running is for you or whether it's not for you. And either which way, please just enjoy your afternoon, yeah? So, Art Your Life, the acronym, and sometimes I wish I hadn't called it Art Your Life, but I did. But a lot of people do think it's about finger painting and or art and craft. Obviously it's not. It is the acronym for Activate, Reshape and Transform, because I believe they're the 3 cornerstones to actually living a life that you love. And I don't mean, ta-da, I love my life all the time. Shit happens, okay? It happens to all of us. But I mean living a life that we feel in control of, and living a life whereby we take responsibility for our own outcomes and our non-outcomes, and where we feel more confident with who we are and what we're doing. The acronym ART is, I believe, that to create a life whereby you feel self-empowered, you actually first of all need to activate your own self-awareness. There's no magic pill out there, as much as we've got a lot of marketing put in front of us constantly. And Anthony Robbins, who's heard of Anthony Robbins, the American guru, yeah? So he's a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner and all sorts of things, and this amazing coach, and he runs a program called Unleash, is it Unleash the Beast Within? And something like that, yeah. Anyway, so it's his philosophy as well. He says that change is actually 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. So it's 80% of self-awareness, of actually knowing oneself. And we call that nosce te ipsum, and that's Latin for know thyself first. Because otherwise we can get distracted in this world that's out here telling us how we should be, how we want to be, what we want to have, what we don't want to have, what we should achieve and what we shouldn't achieve. And yet, what about is that for me? And my moving to Melbourne is a great example, because I had a business coach, and this business coach was a Melbourneite, and he's got all these startup businesses, and he was like, you know, Katie, that program you run for teenage girls could be run across Australia, and you could scale it so that you can run it across the world. And I'm like, ta-da, yes. So highly influenced, okay, by this person. I get to Melbourne, all these stars in my eyes. But the thing was that, cut a long story short, like all this stuff happened, but underneath it all, I actually don't want to be a big business ta-da owner. I actually like to be grounded here in my own community, where I make a difference in a community, yeah? So, but I was highly influenced by what someone else was encouraging me to do. So at that point in my life, it was a lack of self-awareness, yeah? Even though probably giving it a go was a good thing. So that's what the Activate is about, because it's even like the amount of times we make decisions based on even, you know, family beliefs as opposed to our own beliefs, yeah? So that's number 1, what I thought when I was first creating this program. And then number 2 is that we need to reshape, and I don't mean physically. Look, I'm a fitness trainer from 30 years ago. A couple of you used to go to my gym at Humpty Doo. I built a gym at Humpty Doo, oh God, how old's Stevie? She's now 26, so when my daughter was first born, so like 26 years ago. And I was always in the fitness industry, and because I'd grown up and had massive body image issues, and I've been a size 18 and I've been a less than size 6, so that's another story, and anywhere in between. So the reshape is not about reshaping your body. You know, reshaping our body is easy in comparison to reshaping what goes on in here. And when we reshape what goes on in here, the body will follow. It's not actually the other way around, yeah? So the program is very much about reshaping the way we think. We know that our thinking creates our reality. And there's a saying that goes, when man changes the way he thinks, man, woman, then man changes their life and the world around them just by changing the way we think, yeah? It is that thinking head that kind of controls us and it's so much better when it becomes your best friend rather than your own worst enemy. And by activating our self-awareness, reshaping our thinking, which I'm not saying it's easy, okay? It's not easy. We get to transform the relationship that we have with ourselves. And I fundamentally believe that the relationship we have with ourselves is the most important relationship we will ever have. But we don't put enough emphasis on it. We prioritise other people, we prioritise other things, we spend time doing other things rather than connecting with ourselves. I mean, you are with you every second of every day. You wake up with you, you go to sleep with you. But we focus on external relationships. But what about this relationship? Right? So that's essentially what Art Your Life is about. And I created the program for myself. I'm just going to say that quite selfishly. I just went, you know what? I've been in the fitness industry, I'm a solo parent, I've been solo parenting my kids since I was 3. Some things happened in my world where I'd fallen down a flight of stairs and I found myself in a wheelchair. I was working at police at the time. I'd been there for quite a few years as their physical health and fitness development officer. And I found myself in a wheelchair, and I'd been living life just on automatic pilot, and my daughter was in year 11 at the time, and she said to me, she was talking about herself and she was being very critical about herself and her body. And I just looked at her and I thought, oh shit, how did this happen? Like, I have my whole parenting life, I felt like I had been being so positive in everything that I said to her. Yeah, encouraging her to believe in herself, encouraging her to respect herself, teaching her that she's worth so much more than the size of her ass. But it was like a 4x2, because I realised at that moment that my words were one thing, but my actions were another, because I wasn't walking my talk and I wasn't believing in myself. I was in a job that I didn't like. I was doing a lot of Groundhog Day. I was oblivious to who I was as a person and what I wanted, because I'd just been almost in survival mode. And any of you solo mums there, you can know what that's like too. You're just constantly like this. And I hadn't ever really stopped and gone, shit, what about me? Yeah. So it was a defining moment. I thought, well, you know what, I need to learn more. So that's when I started studying. And I studied life coaching, and I then studied neuro-linguistic programming, which is what Anthony Robbins does. And I'm actually a master practitioner of NLP for its acronym, and I'm also a trainer of NLP. So I can train people to be practitioners. I choose not to, because I personally feel that NLP is such a powerful tool that I never want to train somebody who uses it in not positive ways. They might use it just to make money or to convince people to do things for their own good as opposed to the person's good. So anyway, that's another story. So that's what art is all about. So what I love about Art Your Life is that once women have done the program, it doesn't stop there. It's not a start and a stop. So we have a closed Facebook group. There's always ongoing encouragement, learnings and support in there. And I continue to run quarterly workshops and continue to give people option to listen to recordings and things like that. Because I think there's nothing worse than, doing a program or doing something where you learn things and then all too often life can take over again and it can get diluted. Yeah. I think all up now, in the Facebook group, our closed group, there's about 500, isn't there? 500 women? Yeah. So, and it's not a Facebook group that's some big share fest or poor bugger me. It's very, very proactive. And things like a lot of business women have done Art Your Life, and they will post job opportunities in there and things like that. So Terry Polman, who owns Fetch, the new post office, so all her staff have actually done, I think all but one have actually all done Art Your Life. It's like a prerequisite. Because she says, I want a positive business and I want like-minded people in my business, working with me every day. Yeah. And the reasons why the women choose to do the program are wide and varied. All I can say is how long is a piece of string, and you will discover that when you hear what Renee, Amy, Michelle and Maria speak about today with the reasons why they joined. When I was on air with Mel Little the other day, oh, she's so good. Have anyone listened to Mel? Yeah. Oh, she is so good. I went to an event that she emceed. I went to an International Women's Day event called No Woman Left Behind, and she emceed the event. Anyone else there? Yeah, she was so good, wasn't she? She just kept it, even though a lot of it got quite serious, she kept it quite light and at times funny and very real. Anyway, when she interviewed me on Wednesday, I sort of said to her how when I first started the program 8 years ago, it was known as kind of like, it was, Katie, you've got that program for women with issues, don't you? And it's like, oh, no, I don't have a program for women with issues. I have a program for women who want to believe in themselves more, who want to have more confidence, who just love personal growth and development. Women who know that their mental and emotional fitness is just as, if not more, important than their physical fitness. Yeah? That we need to nourish and nurture that. And women who want to back themselves and feel more certain of themselves. So some of the reasons, like yes, some women have joined the program, and one will talk this afternoon, who had spent quite a few years seeing psychs and counsellors and things like that and wanted change. And I won't tell her story, but found change in the 7-week program. I've had other women like Peter Prio who did the program because she's a manager in government, and she's fairly high up, isn't she, Maria? She's a director of some sort, and she wanted to have more confidence to influence her team more. Yep. And she said, I've done a lot of personal development, and she said, but none of it struck home. It was all too surface level for me. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons she did it. Purdy, who's at the back of the room, I remember Purdy did it because she had decided that she was leaving her husband, and she wanted to know who she was so that she could leave him more effectively. And 8 years later, she's still with her husband and they've had a baby. So prepare to expect the unexpected as well. So there's a range of reasons, and I'll let the ladies share with you this afternoon. And whatever brought you into the room, there's a reason why it attracted you. Yeah. So when I spoke earlier about mental and emotional fitness, given my beginning was the fitness industry, and my whole focus was body and body shape, and I had my own body image stuff going on, and a lot of people who join the fitness industry do, by the way. The whole focus was always on the external, was always, size and shape, and same with the people who would join the gym. So much was focused on, well, I want to look like this or I want to look like that. And the amount that people invest in trying to get their bodies to look better, whether that be in a pair of boobs, in lips, in clothes, in shoes, in hair. I mean, I got my hair done the other day and it cost me, I'm not even going to admit to how much it cost me, but I wouldn't not do it, So it's that thing, we focus on the external, but when do we actually focus on the internal? And sadly but true, these are the statistics in Australia. These statistics are from Beyond Blue. 1 in 5 women experience depression at some point in their life. 3 out of 5 experience anxiety. 90% of women are unhappy with their body image and essentially feel like they're in body jail and criticise the way they look. Anyone relate to that? Are you a nasty bitch sometimes to yourself when you look in the mirror and you're naked? Okay? We spend $1 million a day on diets. $1 million a day on diets. We have people starving in the world. We still have trachoma in Australia, which we are the only first world country to still have trachoma, which is the eye disease. And we spend $1 million a day on diets. Yeah? And hey, I was on a diet every day for about probably 15 years of my life. and I was one of those people investing in that industry, but that industry makes a shitload of money out of our insecurities and about marketing to us. 4 out of 5 have low self-esteem. Now, this is interesting. When I first read this statistic in an article on a research paper, it said, the headline was, 1 in 5 women have high self-esteem. And I went, okay, 1 in 5 have high self-esteem. Well, that means 4 in 5 don't. But it has become, in our busy world and the way, you know, with influences like social media and all of that and things that are on television, it is harder to have a solid self-esteem. It just is. More than half say they're unhappy with their jobs. A lot of women who do Art Your Life change jobs, just warning you. Okay, they change jobs or they make decisions like one arter, and I won't mention her name, actually resigned from a very high level position and then took a much lower position, okay, and she's so much happier. But she was, you know, had that convoluted thing of going, well, how's this going to be perceived? I'm seen as this successful woman here, and now I'm changing it, you know. Many women who've done Art Your Life have also started businesses, so you know. 1 in 3, we know this statistic, have experienced violence, and sadly, 1 in 5 have experienced sexual abuse, and most women in Australia are actually unhappy in their relationships. So I know that can seem a bit gloomy, but it's a fact and it's a reality, and it's one of the reasons why each and every one of us must nourish and nurture our mental and emotional well-being and our mental and emotional fitness. We must. Because whether you're one of these statistics right now, or whether you're not, or whether you have been and whether you haven't, okay, you know, we want to not be that, or we want to be able to manage that in our own lives. We want to be able to live with our own experiences and not have them holding us back or dragging us down, yeah? Because who's had shit happen in their life? Yep, yep, you know, we got lots of hands. You know, we just do, and it's not what happens to us that matters, it's actually the meaning we give it, and therefore then what we start to believe about ourselves that matters the most, yeah? And that's where Art Your Life fundamentally sits, in that place. But what happens too in day-to-day life is we start getting into automatic pilot. We just do life. It's like being on the hamster wheel, yeah? And we have over 100 million neurons in our body. And I don't know if any of you have seen books such as Neuroplasticity of the Brain that changes itself. All of those things are now starting to come out scientifically. I would say a lot of woo-woos have been preaching this for years, okay? But now there's scientific evidence sitting underneath it. So we've got all these neurons, right? Neurons are exactly, they look just like a cell, but they're different. They have a different job to do in our body. And each neuron has 10,000 ways it can connect to another neuron. Thing is, all of these 100 million neurons are actually all connected, okay? So we're connected here and we're connected here, but we have 10,000 ways of which we connect or can connect. And science now says to us that if we were all to strip naked right now, and I mean of everything, hair, clothes, skin, skeletal system, muscular system, vital organs, you name it, and it was just you sitting there with just neurons, that we would recognise you. Maria, I would recognise Maria as Maria. Jude, we would recognise Jude as Jude. You'd go, oh yeah, that's Katie up there. That's how uniquely we are wired with these neurons, yeah? And they say it would take 27 light years to count the amount of ways in which an individual can be wired. No bloody wonder we're complex and interesting, yeah? No wonder. But these neurons start to get wired from the moment of conception. And I've got to say, if not before, we have a predisposition to the colour of our eyes, the size of our bum, certain behavioural patterns. So we're also going to have a predisposition of how we're wired. Yeah? So in our 0 to 7 years, what we call our imprint years in developmental studies of a child, the way we're wired is like imprinted. Kaboom! We're wired. Now, I'm not saying it can't change, I'm in the world of change, but what I am saying is in our 0 to 7 years, our fundamental beliefs are wired. Our fundamental ways in which we react are wired. Yeah? Our fundamental feeling processes are wired. So the more years that go on, okay, this becomes a really easy pathway. So the way we react, the way we think, what we believe about ourselves, and whether we believe we're good enough or whether we feel we're worthy, or whether what we believe about relationships, what we believe about the world around us, that's all imprinted. Okay, and life keeps going, and this pathway, it gets now bitumen, because it's really easy to do. Now we've got lights up to help us. Now we've got cat eyes up as well. We've got roundabouts to make it even smoother. So this becomes our pattern. Because you know when you repeat patterns and you go, oh shit, I did that thing again, even though I know. Or I keep ending up in the same types of relationships, or I've got these habits that I want to break, but I keep doing it, even though I say that I'm going to stop doing it. Intellectually I know, but I keep doing it. It's because it's so easy, it's so much easier. Okay, and you're wired to be that way, to think that way, to behave that way, and to believe that way. And a lot of it happens unconsciously. And what we say is, okay, well, all right, I actually want some change. Because it's like I'm driving. Who drives the car now? You can drink a coffee, you can be on the phone, you can almost put your lipstick on at the same time. Admit it. Yep. Or you just drive and you go, oh, I'm at work. I got here. Okay. Wow, how did I do that? I know. Funny. And it's now as well, hello. And it's now as well, we're in April, a quarter of the year has already gone. What promises did you make to you at the beginning of this year? Yes. And how many are broken promises? I always say to ourselves, when we make promises to ourselves and we break them to ourselves, we break our little piece of our heart. Because it's a little bit like when someone promises you something and they don't follow through, it breaks a little piece of your heart, right? But we can do this to ourselves time and time and time again. Well, this bit here, this 4B2, this we want change, which maybe some of you, I had to fall down the stairs, that I just had to do things 100% and fall down the stairs, to be going, no, don't want that pathway anymore, you know. But I wanted change. But to have change, what we actually need is psychologists and psychiatrists and all the world of personal development talk about what we need is S-E-E. We actually need a significant emotional event. Or we need repetition. Okay? Now, a significant emotional event can be an aha moment. A significant emotional event can be sitting on this seat listening to something that maybe you've gone, oh, that's a reality. I thought I knew this stuff, but am I living this stuff? Significant emotional events happen all the time in our transformational coaching and in our workshop rooms. And Purdy always calls this point here, she says that with Art Your Life, that at this point here in her life, she got a backpack. And that her backpack, because this road that you haven't been on, the one that has different patterns, different habits, different ways of thinking, actually being your own best friend and being nice to yourself, yeah? Feeling so much more positive and so much more confident, being more active, being more energised, feeling more in control. Okay, this pathway, well, if you haven't travelled it and you've been imprinted this way, it's like a rocky road. It's like getting on one of those, what do you ride, Renee? One of those mountain bikes. Yeah, that's right. And it's like, okay, how do I navigate this? How do I actually balance this? And it's why people often start to create change or feel differently, think differently, value themselves more, and they'll end up back here. Of course, this is the easy way. But we beat ourselves up about it. But this is the easy way. But what Art Your Life does is gives you a backpack. And the backpack has got tools and strategies in it to help you navigate that rocky road until it becomes the road that is this road. Yep. So that the thinking starts to change. My mum is amazing. She's one of the most positive people I've ever met. And sometimes my sister and I'll even say to her, oh gosh, Mum, you got those rose-tinted glasses on again? But she's amazing. And she always says, her saying is life is an attitude. And her and her hubby just recently retired to Hervey Bay. They'd lived here all the time. Anyway, and Mum worked at palliative care up here, and she volunteers all the time. She's just amazing. And she worked on a Monday, because she said more old people passed away on a Monday than any other day of the week. Yeah? And it was because either they'd seen their loved ones over the weekend and were ready to go, or maybe they hadn't seen people over the weekend, whatever it was. But the amount of people's hands that she held while they were, moving on, was that they would always say to her that their greatest regrets were these ones. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Now, how often do we do things because it's other people's expectations as opposed to our own? I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. People don't express their feelings. We don't grow up learning about what love is. We don't grow up learning about what shame is or what guilt is. We don't have these conversations. In fact, people these days are having bugger all conversations. It's too much like this. We're going to have a generation soon that is not overly capable of having really significant conversations. Yeah? But we don't, and as women, we also grow up being told what not to feel. It's not nice to be angry. It's not nice to X, Y, and Z. It still happens in schoolyards now where, the behaviour is seen differently between young boys and young women. But it's the same. We think it's infra-dig or not nice to be angry. Well, I'm telling you, I'm one hell of an angry person. Yeah? Anger drives me. It makes me get out of bed. It's why I ran Miss Art, a program for teenagers, for 650 girls across the territory. Because it makes me angry with what's happening with our young women. So anger itself is not a bad emotion. It's just what we do with it. Because there are 5 emotions we're born to feel. You'll see it on a baby's face. One is anger, disgust, sadness, fear, and joy. And they're emotions that are good emotions. All of them, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we don't know how to express them. Or we don't even know what they are. And unfortunately, when we've got feelings that we don't understand or we're scared of, we often shove them down. And we shove them down by overeating, overthinking, overdrinking, overworking, over-exercising, anything over, because, hang on, if I sit still and stay present with me for too long, I might start feeling something. And what is that? Once I start feeling it, I might be like a pressure cooker that goes off or whatever it is, yeah? I wish I had let myself be happier. I love that one because I wish I had let myself be happier. And often people say, I just want to be happier. I know. Well, what do you do daily to notice joy? What do you do daily to notice things that help you to be happier? And like any feeling, happiness can come, of course, but no feeling stays and it dilutes. So what is it that creates happiness for me? And what are the things that I need to do? How do I need to be to have more happiness? Yeah? I wish I'd worked less or perhaps loved my job more. Yeah? And I wish I'd valued friendships more. And I believe that to value friendships more, we also need to value self more. And one of the things about valuing self is being able to say no, being confident to have boundaries. Yeah. Otherwise we become people pleasers and time is not our own and all of that. And here we go, talking about time. People are busy being busy. Who's busy? Yeah. We're all busy. Life takes over. And then we find ourselves in April 2019. We've got Easter eggs on the shelf. You're about to see all the end of financial year sales. And then you're going to be looking and going, Christmas decorations. And we're at the end of 2019. Who and how have I been as a person in 2019? can I actually look back and go, you know what? I've really valued myself. I've really actually enjoyed being who I am. I've actually made some decisions to back myself. Yeah? I've actually said no. I've actually changed some relationships. Maybe I've gotten rid of some not great relationships. Yeah? And I go, everything will yell to us that something's more important than who we are as a person, okay, than this space here, because we're so caught up in here. Okay, we get so caught up in our heads, overthinking, overanalyzing, all that stuff. And they say that the shortest but longest journey in life is to go from our head to our heart and to actually be in this space rather than this space. But we don't learn how. We don't get taught how to do that at schools. One of the most effective things they're doing in schools now is running meditation. Hello, of course. Funny that. Okay, helping people be present, helping kids be present in the present moment. Yeah. They say when we're in the present, when we're in the past, that can lead to depression. When we're in the future, it can lead to anxiety because we're what ifing. What if this happens? What if that happens? So that power of being mindful and grounded in the present moment. And whilst I say that, you know, it's time to put your hand on your heart and say no and stop and go, you know, I am important. My life is actually about me. Well, how? How do we do that? And I'll tell you a little story. And dogs are the best lesson for us about mindfulness, by the way. So I'll tell you a little story. And this is a little story about 3 monks in a tinny on the Adelaide River, of course. And they're fishing. Okay, and there's 3 of them there and they're fishing and they're in the middle of the Adelaide River and one of them goes, it's lunchtime, sun's up, and one of them's sitting there and goes, oh, getting a bit famished. I think I need to go ashore and get my ham, cheese, salad and whatever sandwich out of the esky on the shore. So this first monk puts his fishing rod down and he stands up and he steps out of the tinny and he starts walking on water. So he walks on water and over he goes and he sits down next to the esky, pulls out his sandwich and starts eating his sandwich. The second monk goes, oh, actually that looks really good. That looks really yummy, I'm hungry too. So the second monk puts his fishing rod down, stands up, steps out of the tinny and starts walking across Adelaide River and over to the other side and pulls out his turkey sandwich. The third monk sits there and goes, holy hell, if I just believe enough, if I just have enough faith, and if I just believe, then I too can walk across water. Puts his fishing rod down, stands up, steps out of the tinny, and of course goes all the way down. Okay, scrambles up before the crocs get him and gets back in. The 2 monks sitting over here look at each other and go, oh, do you think we should have told him about the stumps underneath the water? And it's what those stumps are tools, strategies and support. Because we can believe enough, we can want enough, but there are mindset tools and strategies that are proven and that work. And a lot of women over the years have said to me, yeah, but I know that stuff, Katie. And I go, yeah, because you've read Eckhart Tolle and Louise Hay and Deepak Chopra, and you've listened to TED Talks, and you've got a bookshelf of personal development books, haven't you? And you see motivational sayings on Facebook now, so you know it, don't you? Yeah, I know that stuff. I go, no, you don't, because you're not living it. Okay? We can intellectualise this stuff rather than actually applying it and embedding it and making it a part of our own inner architecture. Yeah. And that's what Art Your Life pulls together, is some of our own strategies that have been developed over the years, over how many hundreds and hundreds of women who have done the program, and some incredible tools and strategies that are well known but not necessarily applied, yeah, and not actually lived. One of the differences too, I think, that makes Art Your Life very different is me. Just saying it. I'm really serious about what I do. some of the marketing that I engaged a marketer a few years ago, and she did all these videos, and it had me carrying a balloon with all this fluffy stuff, you know, and she did some videos and she made me re-record them about 10 times. She'd say, no, Katie, you're coming across as too serious. And it took me a while to go, but you know what, I am serious. Like, I'm not fluff and bubbles at all. That's just not who I am. And if someone wants fluff and bubbles, go somewhere else, because you're not going to get it from me. I take what I do really, really seriously. And I promise women that during the program, and this happens a lot after the program as well, I can tell you that I will walk beside you, I will embrace your heart, I will have your back, yeah? And I will hold your hand throughout the program, through thick and thin. And I know that the program makes a difference for whatever reason that you want it to make a difference. Whether you feel that there's something wrong with you, or that you're broken, not that I believe anybody's broken, or you've got some stuff you want to overcome, or you want to change some habits, or you know that, you know what, you've been a negative Nancy for the last X amount of years of your life and you actually want to be more positive in your life. But what I know is, the reason I say this is because if you could do it alone, you would have already done it by now. Yeah? And women often think they've got to do stuff alone. You don't. And imagine being in a room for 7 weeks, it's not every day by the way, for 7 weeks, with a like-minded group of women who you go, the friendships that I've seen develop. I mean, some of you said about these women at the back of the room, who was it who said, oh, they know each other? Lizzie, that was you. Yeah. Half of them hadn't met each other, but they just know they've done Art Your Life. So it's just this like-minded and like-hearted way. You'll make friends like no other, because it's not like your friends who placate you and go, oh, they're there, that's okay, have another bottle of wine with me, it's okay, or just sitting there listening to you whinge about your lot in life. Okay, Art Your Life friends will go, okay, negative Nancy, what's going on with that bullshit story? You know, it keeps it real and it keeps it going, okay, well, we want to support each other to continue to grow. Because sadly, our brain is wired to be negative. It's how our brain is wired. And I do a lot of stuff about the brain in Art Your Life and the workshops that I'll go through in a minute. But our reptilian part of the brain and where our amygdala is still exactly the same as it was in caveman days. In fact, the only part of our brain that has changed since caveman days is our frontal lobe, and specifically the left-hand side, okay? So we're still react and respond like cavemen, looking for danger all the time. We're in survival instinct, but come on, our lives are not that at threat every minute of the day by a saber-toothed tiger now. Yes, there are some two-legged saber-toothed tigers, I very much know that, but we don't need to be looking around and going, where am I going to get my next feed, or is something going to jump out and attack me? But we're still wired to go, oh, who said that? What are they thinking about me? Oh, look at that. Oh, and comparison and all of those things. And we just know that it's natural, and sadly that's what's natural to do, as opposed to it be natural to be positive. But there are tools to very much change that. Yeah. So you're wondering how the program's structured? Yeah. Does anyone know how it's structured? All right. So it's no fluke that it's a 7-week program. So you know there are numbers that communicate with our unconscious mind. They're the numbers 3, 7, 13, and 21. And again, there's now scientific research about this stuff. So when I first did a pilot, I did 3 pilots, so Purdy was in the first one. It went for 13 weeks, because I'm like going, well, I want to communicate with the unconscious mind. And it was decided to change it to 7 weeks. The number 7 is quite magical. There are 7 natural wonders of the world, 7 wonders of the world, there are 7 days of the week, there are 7 deadly sins, there's a 7-year itch, there are the 7 colours, I haven't heard, 7 colours of the rainbow. Yes. And there are 7 books in the, are there? And there's 7 books. Oh, 7 dwarfs, yep. 7 books in the Harry Potter series. Yeah. So it's 7 weeks for a reason. And it actually starts before it starts. So for those of you who decide that you would love to do the next program, I'm actually going to tomorrow, or the next day, but probably tomorrow, email you a audio mini series that I just recorded for women in the Art Your Life community. And it's an 8-part series, and each recording is about 15 minutes, and talk about things like love, what is love, and about the emotion of it, and how do we know love, and how do we feel love. In the recordings, I really explore beliefs and our belief systems, values. I explore what's called the Be, Do, Have model. So that explores how and who are we being as a person to do what we need to do to have what we want to have. Because in this world, we focus on what do I need to do, okay? To what do I need to do to have another house, or have another car, or have a better relationship to be happy. We do it the opposite way around. So we focus on doing rather than who we're being. So that's a great audio series. And yes, so you know, because I just know that you'll want to get started with some learning straight away. The other thing is too, so the program, it starts on a 2-day weekend, and this one is starting on the long weekend in May, the first weekend in May. So it's going to be on the Sunday and the Monday, so you've got Saturday to get stuff done. And I call that the Foundations Weekend. And that weekend, the first component of it is very much focused about what you want, actually exploring what you want. A lot of women don't know what they want. I'll say, what do you want? They go, I don't know. Well, what do you want to, how do you want to be? I don't know. Because we're focused on other people. We're very much ingrained in us to prioritise other people and not necessarily go, well, what do I want? How and who do I want to be as a person? Also, that weekend is jam-packed full of a lot of neuro-linguistic programming, teachings, learnings and tools and strategies. Okay, so we explore belief systems in that workshop. We look at language, the language that we have inside our head and the language that comes out of our mouths. We also, what else is in that first weekend? I'm having a little fluff moment of not knowing. We look at our 6 core needs, and when our needs aren't met, meaning our 6 core needs, not Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but exploring the 6 core needs and actually how to meet those needs. And that's some work of Anthony Robbins as well. Okay, having the 6 core needs, when those needs are met, we live happy, fulfilled and energised lives, but when those needs aren't met, we don't. We feel stuck, we feel overwhelmed, we feel pissed off, we feel bored or whatever else. So that's a lot of what we do that weekend. Also, we look at something that's called the NLP communications model. So it's teaching you the science of how the brain creates its reality. Because you'll walk out of here today and each and every one of us will have a different version of what happened. Okay? It's why when police take witness statements, how many different versions are there, Renee? Numerous. And each person thinks they're right. Okay? So I help you understand the science. It's a little bit like giving you an owner's manual to your brain and going, well, this is how your brain operates. And they should teach it at schools. Okay? It's why I started the program for teenage girls, because each and every woman who did Art Your Life has said to me, Katie, I should have learnt this at school. Yeah? So that is a really powerful weekend. I had the husband of one of the women who did the program say to me that, because she says that she only told him about what the investment was when she was swimming naked in the pool with him. Okay. Anyway, he said, Katie, if the whole program had just been that first weekend, he said it would have been worth every cent of it. He said, because I got my wife back after that first weekend. Yeah. And I've had many participants say to me, if it was just that first weekend, done. Yep. So it's deep, it's powerful, it's meaningful. And it's sort of, I love that image because it's like, well, the grass is greener. You know, it can be greener. So that's a 2-day weekend. Then, a fortnight later, there's another 2-day weekend. Okay, and that's on a Saturday and Sunday. That weekend, that's about the mind. So we do the mind field, and that's on the first weekend. So, you know, the mechanics of the mind, which is about all that internal stuff that I was just telling you about. Oh, I forgot about these slides. And also that first weekend is all about conversations. It's about the voice inside our head and how to change it from being a nasty cow and how to make it so much more of a positive voice, okay? So now I'm on to the second weekend, so I'll go back to here. So the second weekend is a Saturday and Sunday, so you've got the first weekend, fortnight later, the second weekend, and that workshop, it's a 2-day workshop. One of the workshops is about behaviour dynamics, okay? So it's understanding your own behaviour and understanding the behaviour of others and where behaviour comes from. And I use a behavioural profiling tool. Anyone heard of extended DISC? Yep, so I use extended DISC, which basically you get your own report. It's like a personality profile. You get your own report and we unpack it that weekend. You also learn about the 4 maybe that's me. So extended DISC, this is where the DISC comes from, D-I-S-C, and it's founded on a lot of Carl Jung's work, okay? But what it says is there are 4 different quadrants of human behaviour or personality behaviour. And the D stands for dominant, and we can put a bull up there. It's sort of the behaviour patterns of like a bull, okay? Then we've got the I is like a peacock. Okay, and we call this influence, and this is a person who is more of an extrovert. This is the person who likes being the centre of attention. This is the person who likes drama, okay? And this is the person who is often caught up in the next shiny thing. Each one of these quadrants has its strengths and has its overuses, yeah? So this one here, the bull, can come across as being they're really direct and straightforward. Some people can find them intimidating because of how direct and straightforward they are. This side of the quadrant is fast. They think fast, they make decisions fast, they talk fast, they even walk fast. Yep, and they adapt to change fast and they want change fast. Over here, and this goes for a whole day, so you know. I'm just giving you a snapshot. The S stands for steady, and this is we can put in there the Labrador. So what do you think of when you think of a Labrador? Steady. And you go, oh, yeah. And it's almost like that Care Bear. It's like the guide dog. Okay, it's trust. Yeah, trust and loyalty is very much here with the high S. The high C is signified by an owl, the wise old owl. Okay, you might call them. In the old days, we might have called them a computer nerd. Okay, very detail focused, very they're very comfortable with spreadsheets and details, etc. Okay, now this side of the quadrant over here is slow. And I don't mean they're slow, but they're slow to change. Okay, they are more considered with change. They take time. Okay, and over here. The thing, when we're a high S, we're driven by the need for comfort. So a lot of high S people are very addicted to their comfort zone. Okay? So that's the person who stays in a relationship, even though they're not happy in it, and they've stayed in that relationship and complained about it for years and years and years and years and years, but they stay in it because it's the better the devil you know. Yeah? It's the person who stays in a job that they really don't like and they don't feel valued at. Okay, but it's better the devil you know. Okay? So each one, when I go through this workshop, we go through it so deeply. We talk about the 2 top core needs that each of these different personality types have. You get to discover what blend you are. Okay? 75% of our population sits down here, is a blend of these 2. And, it's 70% and 30% up here. People who sit here on this quadrant are driven by feelings, okay? They are driven by the journey and about relationships. People up here are more driven by outcomes and facts. None of it's good, none of it's bad, none of it's right, none of it's wrong. But this is about you getting a roadmap of your personality. Okay, so you can then go, gosh, if I'm not getting the outcomes I want in life, in whatever area, whether it's be career, health and well-being, fitness, finance, relationships, in whatever area, if I'm not getting the outcomes that I want, I need to do something differently. Okay, otherwise you would have the results you want. Well, when you know where you sit in this quadrant, you then know where you have to extend yourself to, okay, to get those different results. It's a little bit like, I do not have an ounce of high C in me, not 1 ounce. That's not very constructive when you have a business and you're meant to look at profit and losses and you're meant to look at budgets, yeah? For me, sitting down on those days is like I would rather ride a bike for 45 kilometres or run a marathon. I messaged Purdy yesterday and I said, oh, Purdy, can you please come to the information session, because I've just realised that I've got to get the forms all filled out and all that sort of thing, and my high C hat won't be on. You know, so it's knowing, and when you know, it's like knowing your strengths and weaknesses more. I know when I first got my personality profile done, it was like a monkey jumped off my back instantaneously, because I understood years of certain behaviour. I was like, oh, why did I even say yes to go to a Tupperware party? When really, you know, I should know that I would have hated that, but I said yes just because. Yeah? So you get to learn yourself, like, it's incredible. And that's a whole day. The great thing is you get to learn about the behaviour of others as well, and why buttons get pushed and why buttons don't get pushed. You learn to recognise this in people at work as well. Yeah? Now, on that weekend as well, we're doing a workshop called Loving Food for Food. And I'm pleased to say that this time and in this program, which I've never had before, I've actually got, who's heard of Richard Sager, the dietitian? I've got Richard Sager coming to do a bit of a presentation at that about the 9 reasons why women find it challenging to A, either release weight, or B, have a healthy gut so that it helps our moods. Yep, so he's going to be giving, I think it'll go for about an hour and a half. In that workshop as well, we really explore body image and the influences on our body image. We also look at our different, I've got a personality profile which is literally about not what you eat, but it's how you eat. We focus so much on calories, on what's good for us, what not good for us, that we don't ever focus on how we actually eat. So very powerful workshop, that one. So we've got first 2 days, 2 weeks later, another 2 days. Then we've got 2 weeks later is the relationship workshop. And we encourage those of you who have a partner to bring your partner to this workshop, whether your partner is same-sex or not. We now have quite a few same-sex couples come to the relationship workshop. And in this workshop we explore the 2 reasons why relationships fail. Why do you think Purdy's still married, even though she was leaving her husband? I cannot count now how many people, whether that's the men who have come along or the partners, women or whatever, who have said to me, Katie, that relationship workshop saved our marriage. Now, we don't learn about how to do relationships. We don't learn. Okay? This looks at the seasons of relationships, the 2 reasons why they fail, the reasons why, those of you who are single, perhaps you keep choosing the same type of partner and there's a bit of a pattern going on. Or perhaps you're not sure you want to be in a relationship and you're not. Or perhaps you're in a relationship and you're thinking, I don't want to be in this relationship, whatever it is. But this is 101. We look at the seasons of relationships, the 2 reasons why they fail. We look at love languages. I don't know if any of you have heard of that material before. It is very powerful and it's fun. It is not a kumbaya share fest. Okay, it's just not. And we always make sure there's beer and champagne. And the first thing I do in it is look at the science of the brain and go, okay, here's a male brain, doesn't necessarily mean it's a male, but here's a male brain, here's a female brain. We chop the top of it off, and we look at the structure, the biological and physiological structure of the brain and how it impacts our behaviour and what we do and how we think. Yeah. So it's very much that, you know, men are from, a man brain is from Mars and a woman brain is from Venus. Yeah, yeah. Or Visa, whichever one you want to say. Then a fortnight later, we have what we call best year yet. So this is putting all of the things that you've learnt over that, then it comes to about to the 6th week, into practice for your next 3 months. Okay? So it's creating the plan for the next 3 months to a year, so that you're not just finishing a program and going, oh, well, what next? Okay? And you'll learn some incredible tools there that you can also implement in business about goal setting, putting into place strategies, etc. So that's the structure of it in terms of face-to-face workshops. There's also weekly live online webinars. Okay, so they're every Tuesday night at 7:30. Now, if you've got netball on a Tuesday night, fine, they're recorded. And I send you the recording the next day. They just go for an hour. And the first one is actually the week before the program starts. And that's a woman called Jo, who is a part of Art Your Life. She's running that one. Once you hear her voice, you'll know why. Okay. So we sort of start, we call that one the who, what, where, how. So that's when all the details, so that's what I mean by you start before you start. Okay, so that's so you know what's going to happen on the weekend. You've got all the detail. We then send you your personality profile links to get filled in. All of those things on that week before the program starts. Also then, the following week, I do a check-in and check-up, so that's after the first weekend, so live online for any questions. Also, I overlay more material, okay, so refresh on some of the material from the weekend, okay. I also do, in that whole series, a workshop on the art of mindfulness, which I really love, and then also one about feelings, okay, which is really powerful. Also, during that feelings one, I help you explore your natural chemicals, which are your, what we call our EDSOs, our endorphins, dopamine, serotonin and oxytocin, okay? They're our natural happy chemicals, and there are things that we do these days that make those chemicals not exist. And there are things that we don't do to help those chemicals grow, yeah? So we've got that connection every single week, okay? Also, it includes the program, if you choose, can include coaching. So that's 2 transformational coaching sessions with me, whereby I use the neuro-linguistic programming coaching tools that I've got. So some, I don't know how to describe the coaching. I'll actually leave it up to the ladies to describe the coaching. So the options are that you can decide that you want to do the 7-week program without the coaching, and I've done that because I've got a limit on the amount of spaces for coaching that I've got. I've only got, I'm going to say 10, but I've already had 5 book in for the coaching, and I am slightly challenged to say no. You will learn that. I'm slightly challenged to say no when people say, oh yeah, but can I? Because I know how powerful the coaching is. Yep. So that's what's in the program. Has anyone got any questions about the format, the structure?
What if you can't do a whole workshop for whatever reason?
If you can't do a whole workshop, have you got a particular one that you can't do?
No, I've told you about my husband. So
yep. It's a great question. So, Di, I've got every workshop will actually be recorded. Okay, and I don't mean that it's going to be recorded for the 6 hours and to actually watch it, you have to sit there and watch the whole 6 hours. We're going to edit it. So, and I've also got I've already done recordings as well for each one of the workshops where it's direct to camera. Yep. And let's say in your circumstances, if something happened in the first week and you couldn't participate in the program at all, then I would just say to you, either we do it one-on-one, like, because We also do what we call a private immersion, where people watch the recordings and then I walk them through it one-on-one. So there are options for everything. It's the same with people who say, oh, but I'm a FIFO worker, or people who say, you know, and I go, yep, I've got modules, they're recorded, whatever it is. I've had, you know, women from Australia, around Australia, do the program. Do I think the live version is the most effective? Yes, I do. Yeah. Do people who do the online version get great results? Yes, it's just that I happen to love the live vibe. Yeah. So that's, any questions? There's also a couple of different options available. I often will do some power walks and things like that. So I'll just post in the private Facebook group, hey, you know, I'm going to be at Nightcliff Foreshore on Monday at 5:30. Who wants to join me for a power walk? And that's like anybody and everybody. I also run a mindful motion and meditation class on a Wednesday night that you're welcome to come along and join when you're a part of the, you know, you can just choose to come along to that one too. So there are a lot of other things that I do as well that artists are always invited to. Nikki? Oh. Any other questions? Not that there've been any. Isn't this rain beautiful? Yeah. Absolutely magical. So the private Facebook group, I don't even know how to say the value of that private Facebook group. And even if you're not on Facebook, I would encourage you to join Facebook. You do it under a fake name for just 7 weeks. I check in on that Facebook group every day. I task you during workshops to do certain things and then check in on how you're going with those, because I know how important accountability is. Yeah, when we want change and when we want to do something different, sometimes left up to our own devices, we don't. Okay? Whereas when we've got someone checking in on us, it's like going, oh, well, I've said I'm going to do it, so now I'm actually going to do it. Yeah? Can you just check that the inclusion's there in case there's anything? Oh, also, if any of you want it, I've got a USB key with a series of exercise videos on there, which include 13 of the, thank you, 13 of the must-do exercises for a woman's body. Yeah, I just think there are certain exercises that every woman's body, if she's going to exercise, needs to do, and there's a whole lot of exercises that you're told to do that are just a waste of bloody time. Okay? So, and it's also got a workout manual there as well. So you're more than welcome to get a copy of that. And also you get some fairly significant workbooks during the program too. So these lovely three asked a couple of questions. So Di asked about the venue. I haven't yet finalised the venue. It's not here, okay? The relationship workshop might be here, but we've looked at a few different venues and pretty sure it's going to be, what was the one yesterday? Doubletree, okay, in town, okay? The other one we've looked at is the airport, but that's not as easy. Like they've got, in the actual airport, they've got a beautiful conference room, but it's not as easy to access food. You'd have to go through to security and things like that. So that it's going to be somewhere like that, but we're really keen on Doubletree. And yeah, so that's looking like the venue that it's going to be. And the reason I'm just not sure about the relationship workshop yet is it's just about size, that's all. So, yeah. So what I might do now is get you lovely ladies to come up. Oh, and the other thing that Di asked me was about investment cost, so to speak. So the 7-week program, and I'll put it up a little bit later, and yes, I have payment plans. Of course I have payment plans. And sometimes I have mothers and daughters do the program, and so you know, if mothers and daughters do the program, I always do something. You just come and chat with me and I do something for that as well, because there's nothing more powerful than getting families to do the program.
How old are you the daughter, because if I've got a 14-year-old, for example, probably not
too young. Yep, yep. I always say the girls need to be over 18. Yep, yep. And I think partly that's because of some of the content and some of the, yeah. So the program for the 7-week intensive without coaching is $18.95, and then the coaching is on top of that, okay? And some people in the past have said, oh God, Katie, that's expensive. I go, actually, no, it's not. It's not at all. You'll spend that amount of money on coffees in 6 months before knowing it, yeah? And how do you put a value on what's on the inside? I used to run the program with anywhere up to 40 women in a program, and the program then used to be cost actually a lot more than that because I was employing staff, and I was employing coaches, and I was employing a lot of people. So now I've gone, you know what, I don't want that. It's me, I'm doing the coaching, so what I've been able to do is make the cost of the program actually less than it's ever been. So during our little refresh break, I was asked a couple of questions. One of those was, what if I miss out, what if I'm away for one of the workshops? And again, I would encourage you, no matter when the program is run, there are potentially always going to be a time when you go, oh, well, I can't do that one workshop. Please do not let that put you off. The material is recorded, and so you will not miss out on any of the content. Okay, and I promise you the group will be really connected. And no, it's not on the Greek Galenti weekend. Quite deliberately so. So I asked, and also so you know, Purdy's participated in the program too, same with Sarah. And I asked these beautiful women to come along. So maybe we'll just start with why you chose to do the program. Or, because when, do you want to start, Amy? She went like that. I'm like, go.
I'm glad we got it. It's funny, when I've actually known Katie for a really long time, way before she even started art, seeing each other in the gym, and she started telling me about this program, and then went to the first information session, which, you know, exactly like this, and I can't even remember if it was presented like this, because I look at this one now and go, oh my God, that's so amazing, I can't wait for these people to do this. Because I did walk away from that one going, I don't need someone to tell me how to be happy. And it wasn't until, so when was that? How long ago was that?
Oh, that was ages ago.
10 years ago? More?
No, it was 8. 8, yeah. 8.
So it took me 5 years, no, 3 years later to do it, and that was 5 years ago. And the reason I had an aha moment in my life where it was a near-death situation, and that bounced me into choosing myself and making better choices. But a really bad choice that had been part of my life for such a long time was an eating disorder. And after going through what I did in this other aha moment, this thing started creeping back into my life, and I've been doing that for 20 years. So it took me 20 years, and I was fucking great at it. When you've been doing it since you're 12, and you've been having to hide it forever, it took a lot. And I signed up, I called Katie, because we knew each other, I'm like, I need you to come. She's like, I know.
I was like, no shit, Sherlock, I've been waiting for years.
And it was really hard at the start, you know, you sit and you listen to other people, and eventually, yeah, I was so ready, wasn't I? Like in that first weekend, you guys are going to get some check back, and you're going to blow your minds away. But yeah, I was really happy to tell people about it, because it was life-changing for me in that moment. What came from Art Your Life after that is where I had no idea how my life was going to change because of this woman, and because of her partner Joe, who is just equally as awesome. And when we touched on the friendship, so when you come into the first one and you talk about what you're going to also create as a community and the people that you connect with. So I walked into this room, signed up by myself, no one there, sat down, and I was looking over, and I was like, oh no, we're being perfect. You know, we're in the same social circle, we've said hello, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually, you know, sat there and chat during the breaks, and by the end of that 7-week intensive, that person, who you all actually know as Ali
Ali from radio.
We became housemates, we became best friends, she was the bridesmaid at my wedding, and you know, I now lives next door to me. We're going for drinks tonight. You know, it's a community based. And even 5 years later, I connected with another artist and contracted her to do some design work, even though I'm a designer myself. She's just an amazing woman, and you help get other artists out. So no matter what you do in that respect, that's, you know, and just, learning about the mindset and other women and their stories and their deeds. You know, for me, I couldn't understand why people would wear beautiful colours and do their hair, and, you know, rather than they're all going now, tell me about all the detail, everything like that. And you can use that in your everyday life, like in business. And that's what I've done as well. Just being able to know I need to connect with every single woman out there. And also,
Relationship.
I can't want to talk about that with me.
Oh, you were so skillful at sabotage. See, I have a memory like an elephant.
I said to Katie the other day when I called, I was like, I'm not sure if you want me to do this today. Going through what I've just separated, which is not something we're going to bring up, but I will because I've thought about it more. And it's the tools that I know that has got me through it. I've chosen to choose me, and I've chosen to get through it, but I've also chosen to own my self-sabotaging days, knowing I just need to do that and then get back on track. So yeah, the tools that Katie talks about are just incredible.
So are you. Just thanks.
But anyway, I literally have not had an eating disorder since I came to this first date. Pretty happy. I don't love my legs as much as I wished I did, but I love them more than I did when I started. I wear shorts, and I specifically did today. What else can I tell you? And what? You want to talk about? I'll just quickly touch on another thing. When I started Art Your Life, I was seeing someone for a few weeks, and I was like, nah, he's not for me, not with me. And I really wanted to do Art Your Life and focus on myself. So I said, nah, see you later. Done. He just sat in the side, wrote some nice little love letters, and I did the Art Your Life. And obviously learning more about other people and the way they think and what they need and what I need, and that we. After Art Your Life, 2 weeks later, I gave him a bit of a phone call. I was like, dinner? And then, you know, pretty much a year later, we were married, and we've got 2 beautiful children. Forget about the other bit that I just told you. Because it really, really doesn't reflect what happened and what happened, obviously, in the marriage. He's an amazing dad, and we're still, we work really well together as parents at the moment, and whatever happens at the moment happens. Yeah.
Very good.
So I made a couple of notes so I don't ramble.
No.
Classic example. High I, high D.
No, you didn't ramble. That is true, isn't it? I was thinking straight away, you're a high eye.
Yeah. I was a cross, I think, when we did mine. The red cross of I and C. Oh, anyway, stop rambling.
IS.
So I did Katie's program in 2016, and at that time and before that, ever since I can remember, I kind of felt really angry and frustrated, and I appeared really confident to everybody, but I actually didn't feel confident. And I had some pretty serious self-esteem issues that I was ignoring. I did not have meaningful connections with people, so I was just moving around the world, just how I was, and I struggled with interactions, particularly in my workplace, because, you know, I'm a scientist, and scientists can be of a certain ilk, and they're not the easiest people to work with. And I'd lost my drive and my passion in terms of my career, and it was something I'd always been really passionate about, and I didn't have great boundaries at all, and I was so stressed. And it led me to being on antidepressants because I pretty much presented like a depressed and anxious person. But I actually wasn't. I was stressed and all this other stuff was happening. And I realised that the antidepressants were actually making me anxious and depressed, making me feel worse, and had embarked on a pretty torturous withdrawal program by the time I'd come into Art Your Life. I'd also been seeing psychologists for about 10 years, and none of that had done and helped with any of that stress. And I felt different from everybody and wondered if I was on the spectrum. I really did. I think I put that in one of my notes in the course, like that you had to hand in to Katie. I was like, I think I'm on the spectrum. I felt guilty for feeling how I actually felt because it looked like I had it all. I have a great family, I have a great job, and I just felt like that. And I was constantly living in my head. When I did the program, I was in a really bad place. I was super stressed and it was a pretty dark place. And I also had not realised that I had some beliefs that were not serving me well at the time. But post-program, the program probably saved my life. And you'd say that, Katie, at that time?
Oh yeah, I reckon.
It did.
Yeah.
It saved my life. Yeah. And I can't speak highly enough of the program for that. 2 weeks ago, I've been just doing some stuff with Katie, some coaching, because I can tell you the quickest way to change anything in your life is to do some coaching with Katie. And if I don't have the issues that I had before, they're well and truly gone because of the program, but I'm trying to move myself onto bigger and better levels in my life, and I just need that nudge to do that, and I'll go do some coaching with Katie. And I was looking in my notebook from that time and I saw the last session when you set your intentions and goals, and it blew my mind. I was so excited. I burst into tears. I looked at the list and I was like, oh my God, I've done almost everything that was on that list.
Is it the list you created when you did Art Your Life?
Yeah. And I just can't tell you that feeling when I looked at that list, at the power I have in myself to be able to do these things. So I've been medication free since May last year, and Katie helped me a lot with that. And I'll tell you, it was a 4-year complex withdrawal program. So it was really trying and really tough. And there were times when I was suicidal because of the withdrawal. I found my drive and passion for my career again. I've been doing a fair bit of media lately and stuff in support of my profession.
Oh, and you're about to go over, are you mentioning that?
That, yeah. My interactions with some of the difficult people I have in my profession are so much improved. Actually, some of these people I really like as people now. And that's huge, right? Art Your Life gave me the tools for that to happen, and what Katie's referring to is I wrote down I wanted to apply for a Fulbright Award, and for those of you who don't know what the Fulbright program is, it's one of the most prestigious academic programs in the world, and Katie kind of nudged me a couple of times going, just do it, and I've just felt, no, I'm not in that league, but I won an award, and off to the US in July for 4 months with my awesome family, and there was also a goal I really had. I wanted to prioritise my family and spend some really good quality time with my young son and my husband. So I said, I'll put on my goal list, we'll go on a road trip to the States for 2.5 months. So we did that, and that was an awesome thing from so many reasons. I was able to connect with myself as well a bit better, being away from my environment. I went in my first downhill mountain bike race last year, and I'm 44, so instead of being seconds of terror, it was minutes of terror, unfortunately. And that's just a note. Be really careful what you put on your vision board because you're looking at it every day. And I had a picture of a woman just charging down a mountain on a mountain bike. So, yeah, you create your reality around you. It actually works. I also released 9 kilos straight after the program, and it was just letting go of shit, and I actually decided I liked myself. So that was really, looking back, that was amazing. So the tools I got from the program I used with my 6-year-old son, and I use them with my team at work, and people often tell me how what a happy soul my little boy is, and it kind of makes me a bit proud. I also made some lifelong friends that I have strong connections with, like Sarah at the back. And I mean, I just rocked up in this room and chatted to Purdy like I've known her for years, when, you know, Purdy and I might have spoke just a couple of times. So I have greater compassion for others because I have more compassion for myself. That's something I've been working on more recently as well. Katie really is an amazing coach. One session with her addressed issues that therapy over 10 years had not even been able to, you know, that stuff doesn't work particularly well, I found. So, yeah. So I'm super creative, and I can't do the awesome things in my profession I do unless I have the mental health and acuity to support it, and that's what the program's given me as well. Thank you, Katie.
Cry.
I feel like crying sometimes.
If I can, I'm also a high D, so I did take some notes. I've got the flu, so my head's not a bit foggy, but yeah. I don't
Some notes, Maria?
I don't like this. It's actually part of my thesis. No. No. So my name's Maria Albion, and I'm 52, and I've grew up here in the Northern Territory, and been here for most of my life. And I did Art Your Life 5 years ago, but there's a but there. I came along to a session just like you, but I was invited by my daughter to come. And now she was the one that had heard about Art Your Life, and if we just backtrack a little bit, why she was looking for something else was that she'd been in kind of domestic violence for about 9 years, and so she'd been going up and down, up and down, up and down, and I was kind of her support over that time. And so she was looking for something else, and so she found Art Your Life, and she said one evening, there was an informational evening, and she said, you know, Mum, come along, it might be something for me. So we went along, and I heard the information, just like you guys did today. And at the end of the session, Jade didn't need any convincing. She thought that that was exactly what she needed, so she signed up. And then she looked at me and she said, Mum, what about you? And in all honesty, I said to her, no, it's not for me. I've heard it all. You know, I've done huge amounts of, you know, learnings and all of those sorts of things, and I felt I was okay, and I didn't really need to sort of, you know, join the group. And, you know, minutes went on, and she came back at me again, and she said, why don't we do it as a mother and daughter thing? And so we get to spend some time together, and you never know, it might be, you might actually get something out of it. So reluctantly, I dragged my feet over to the table and signed up, still thinking, yes, you know, I'm going to sort of put 7, you know, weeks into this, but it'll be in the mind frame of being there for my daughter. So we joined up, and Jadie was very, very excited, and come the first weekend of Art Your Life, and bang, I realised that I was going to get lots and lots out of the actual program. In fact, probably I needed it more than she did. So thus my journey started with Katie and Joe and the group. I think there was 40 odd of us in that particular group, and I learned some really valuable tools. For the first time in my life, I thought that I was okay, and I thought I was travelling fine. I was in complete automation, just like Katie described. Thought my relationship was okay. I thought career-wise I was fine. And so, but once I joined, and the first weekend when we did a bit of an audit on where we were up to, it was really quite surprising to me that where I thought the things that I thought I needed to work on were definitely not the things. It was actually the other way around. For example, I found out that I craved variety in my life, and for years and years and years and years, I hadn't had that in my life. With my career, for example, I like to work in different places, move around every 3 to 4 years. I had been stuck in that position for about 8.5 years, and I hadn't done many of the other things that I usually crave to do. So I kind of had a really long look into that, and over time, I think the tools that I learnt throughout your life really sort of set me on a path of change. And here I am, fast forward 5 years into kind of a better version of myself. And certainly feel much, much happier with where I am today. In the last 5 years, there's been so many changes, changes that I didn't think I would do. For example, even before I finished Art Your Life, in those short 7 weeks, I actually resigned from my job and moved on to something else. So that was a really, really big thing. So I moved from a really stable, high-paying position into doing something that was much less in value, I guess, in my head. And did some really drastic changes to how I did things to the point where for the last 3.5 years I had a dream job overseas, sort of a position that I almost created myself, and went on and worked overseas, and now I'm back. But all of those things wouldn't have happened had I not learnt the tools to get there. So, just in terms of my daughter, certainly I've seen big changes too, and she's certainly in a better place, and living overseas now with her 3 little kids. And so some of you might be sitting there thinking that, this may not be for you, just like me. From my point of view, you will be pleasantly surprised at how much it will help you in just all facets of your life. So I think also the other thing I was thinking when I was sitting down prior to coming here, one of the things that really stood out for with Art Your Life, going through it, was the way that Katie delivers the material.
Oh, thank
Definitely,
you.
yes. So give her a lap. So that's my journey. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer. If Katie, if you've got anything to prompt me in terms of any experience.
Just the amazing work that you've done in the last 3 years, Maria, that you didn't over in East Timor, doing incredible things with young people, creating change and the fact that what I know is that teachers and people who work with our younger generation in whatever way, when they learn Art Your Life tools, it's like a ripple effect. I cannot believe some of the things teachers have now done in schools. And Maria, what you did with a lot of the Art Your Life tools that you learnt in East Timor, and for that I just go thank you, because what we learn, we can then, it flows on, but without us actually learning it, we can't flow it on. We can give advice, we were having a chat before, we can advise people, but there's not that ripple flow on effect. So Maria, thank you. Yes. No, ask a question.
Just to all the ladies, I just want to ask, because you made sort of big changes in your relationships, especially when it came to when you did Art Your Life, you already had relationships, husbands, boyfriends, so I'm just saying, or daughters. When you try to make drastic changes like changing a job, moving away, did you have any opposition, and how did you deal with it? That is the main. I mean, it's good when you make a change because you want to change yourself.
Yeah.
Because you have all these people depending on you, you would get opposition. How do you deal with it? That would be my general question for it.
So one of the things I did, one of my strategies, was to actually share the material with my husband every time I went home after the weekends with Art Your Life. and we sat down and we discussed lots of the strategies, and we started to apply, and he actually came on board and was actually trying things out too, because he knew that it was going to make a difference to us as well. I was lucky because he came along with what I was doing. But in terms of changes, there were big shocks to him, you know, and he tried to convince me otherwise. But, you know, this kind of thing really helped as well, to explain to him the need for me to do the things that I needed to do. And now looking back, he's looked back and said, oh my God, thank God we did this. You know, he says, we did this.
My husband, he saw such a change in me that anything I suggested after that, going to the US for 2.5 months, he's like, what? And then because of the changes he saw in me, he's like, all right, let's do it. So I think just how things were changing, he was happy with whatever we were working on. Yeah.
Tula, I'll just explain, just for the room, because I love human behaviour so much. There's a pattern that goes on. We all have patterns, okay? And what happens also when women or people join Art Your Life is what you'll find is there will be barking dogs. Okay, so those of you who decide, this is for me, I'm in, you know, I'm doing this, I'm making the decision right now, you'll walk out of here, you'll go, oh, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do that 7-week program, and it's all this and it's that, and someone in your life is going to say, well, what do you want to do that shit for? Or someone will say, oh, well, you don't need it, you're fine just the way you are. Or someone will go, oh, well, you spent that money. Someone will do it. Yep. And what happens is, I call it's a barking dog, because dogs bark at what they don't understand. And you're going to have that throughout your 7 weeks, because also when you start to become happier, you start to become more your own best friend. When you start to let shit go and start to do some of the things that these women do, some of your friends are like going, I want the old you back. Okay, and that happens, I promise you. But what we do know is that when we change, those around us energetically have to change. Yeah? Makes sense from a human? Yeah. So great question.
It's also a choice.
Yeah. So Michelle, you're going to have to speak up very loudly. Michelle has got the most divine soft voice.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not working?
No. We don't have a microphone, but I'm an ex-aerobics instructor, so I can bellow. So can you bellow? Pretend you're on a 5-acre block, Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle. I think I did the last art 7-week intensive. So, I mean, a lot of the tools are you know, just listening to these ladies, you know, some of them have been ingrained for so long. But, you know, just listening to your question, you know, it's still a choice about change. You know, we change, and we have to, we want to. And that's been a huge thing for me. Before I started Art Your Life, I was sitting in a house and sitting in a lounge chair doing nothing but listening to my negative thoughts and talking about myself not very well, trying to appease emotions in my head with crap food, on seriously high doses of medication. Not a lot was going for me at the time. I wasn't working for various reasons. My husband also had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, which he's still alive and well today, but we are no longer. He got well. I wanted him to believe that he could, but that was something that he couldn't run with. But anyway, he wasn't living in the house with me. He'd up and gone to our retirement place and living in a home. So I was there on my own. Didn't have very many visitors, had no friends. I wasn't willing to be a friend, so yeah, pretty shit lifestyle. I had a Supreme Court trial that had been going on for some time as well. So there was lots of things happening in my life. My relationship with my daughter is quite toxic, still is, but I'm becoming a better person and learning how to deal with that. It's something that is ongoing, you know. So yeah, look, things changed with when I started to go to art. I go to all the workshops. I've been doing the mindful motion and meditation, which I absolutely love. It's taking time for me to learn tools and to implement them, but there's no rush, because I'm being a better person by doing what I'm doing. I've changed so much, and I will continue to change. I went to an information session just like this, and ladies were sitting up here, and you know, what blew me away was one of the ladies was telling my story. It wasn't word for word, but it was exactly my story. And you know, I just had no doubt. I mean, didn't know where the money was going to come from at the time, but I went, I need to do this for me. You know, early 50s, and I had no career, I'd lost so much, and you know, it's been absolutely wonderful. I've lost
30?
Probably easy, but from the end of November, I've lost over 25 kilos. Caroline was part of my, I saw an ad go around on Facebook about Darwin Deadly Runners. It's a 10-week program where you start off running 30 seconds and you have 30-second break, and then you build up to doing a 5-kilometre run, which I completed early March. Caroline was part of that journey, you know, so yeah, you know, we can change so much, you know, and if it's only one thing in your life that you think, maybe I can do this, it's enough, because like Katie said, it's a ripple effect. You will. And you know, I might have been vulnerable, but Katie was also, she would tell me things I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. But that was part of why I'm here now.
Thank you, Michelle. I have so much regard for these women to volunteer 2.5 hours, 3 hours out of their precious Saturday afternoon to come along and to allow themselves to share their stories and to be vulnerable. So I just, you know, Darwin's a small place, and to be able to, for them to come and be here, so just, yeah.
I just wanted to quickly add something. Obviously I told you about what's going on in my life at the moment, and the highest regard that I have in that people that know Katie too. My husband actually, even though he knew we were friends, he contacted Katie to suggest counselling, knowing that we were friends but would be right for both of us. Just to put, you know, an outsider trust in that woman to work on our relationship as well. I think it speaks highly of what you can do for relationships. And the other thing is, I wish I could a long time ago. And one of my favourite sayings, you know, is always, life is not reversible. And especially when Michelle was saying, 50 years old now, you know, just do do, and ever since you would be a doer, and you would just do stuff, and you won't have that doubt. Thank you. As well.
So,
Can I just add, sorry, yeah, you know, years and years ago I wanted to study, and I thought, I had a husband that, you know, I was always broke. And I've gone back and I'm studying, you know, like anything is possible. It doesn't matter how old we're in, we can all grow up.
yay.
But we now have the tools to continue working with that progress. And the other thing is, when shit happens, like what you said, you've got the tools to be able to deal with it, and you will deal with it each time, you know, definitely in a better way.
So all different, the journey for every person who's done Art Your Life is different. It's a different journey. People decide to do the program for different reasons. I just want to reiterate, and I think these women have sort of probably done it for me, but during the program and beyond, okay, and beyond, I will hold your hand, I will embrace your heart, I will have your back, and I will walk beside you. And that's who I am. It's just who I am. Some other people, like there's so many women who've done the program who you sort of think, okay, well, why would they do it? Like I said, it's not, I'm going to stop waffling actually. I think I've said enough. I just want to introduce you to one of the main reasons why Art Your Life exists, and it's because of this beautiful person here. It's because of this beautiful person here who's my amazing 25, about to be 26-year-old daughter, Stevie. If she ever asks you if I talk about her in the program, you ought to say, I didn't know she had a daughter, I thought she had a son. So when I first started in my coaching sort of life, it became a part of me, and I remember even Stevie, when I'd be semi-coaching her, she'd go, don't you use that coaching shit on me, Mum. And I'd be like, you know, honey, this is who I've become as a person now. But I have this fundamental belief that what walks in the mother runs in the child. And she can't stand the belief. She says, really? I don't want your nose. I don't want your this. I don't want your that. Anyway. But it's not about what walks in the mother that runs in the child. It's what walks in us runs in our next generation. And we women need to walk with more self-respect. We women need to walk with more self-love. We need to walk with more certainty of self. And we need to walk with greater boundaries for ourselves. And we women need to know that we are enough and we are worthy right now. Because if we're not walking that, how can our kids walk that? Yeah? But it's not handed to us. We're not taught how to. And I promise you that Art Your Life will give you tools, support, motivation, accountability, inspiration, you name it, to help you love yourself, the most important person there is in your world, love your body, the vehicle that is carrying you around, and to love your life. Because, hey, that's really what it's about. So I want to say thank you again so much to the women who spoke today. I know that there are several of you in the room who have already had a look at the calendars. Does anyone want a copy of the calendar? Yep. So the program starts, this is the long weekend, so it's the 5th of May, the 5th and 6th of May. And the second weekend is the 18th and 19th of May. Every Tuesday night is the online workshop. The Magical Relationships, one-day weekend. The Best Year Yet, one-day weekend. And the 23rd is actually a celebration dinner. So it's like a celebration dinner to all be together. Okay, so that's the calendar. the registration forms are up the back. This is the investment plan. So I encourage you to consider the coaching, but also know that there is a limit on the amount of people that I can coach, because I don't coach in the first week because I want to push a few buttons first. And so, you know, I push buttons deliberately, okay, because otherwise I can't help you get out of your comfort zone. That's what coaching is about. So I don't coach in the first week, I start the coaching in the second week. Now, if you're going, I really want to do the coaching, and let's say, because I've already had 5 people join and are doing the coaching, and let's say I run out of coaching places, then I can always coach you after the program. But I would encourage you, if you're someone who knows you want that one-on-one coaching, hurry up, okay? I'm running a workshop on Wednesday night, and I've got 40 people booked in for that, and I'm letting them know about the program. I don't know about you, but I think the energy in this room is amazing, and I would encourage you to make a decision for you.